You're listening to Alternative Revelations with Linda Emanuel, and this is podcast number 179. And if this resonates with you, so be it. If not, just disregard it. And I'm going to give you a little bit of an update, some more cities and areas that have been added to the targeted city list. And what I've been doing for the last week and a half is going over escape routes with MOSH and SMEW. SMEW is the other guide who was working with me before MOSH came, and Creator was also working with me, giving me all the information. And I've had a chance to go and ask them a lot of questions about different things, and I'm going to share that with you later. But I'm going to give you some new targeted cities. I'm just going to go through the list of cities that are going to be on the target list. Some are new, some you already know. And the date of deployment still is October 28th. And for some areas, it's November 1st. And usually these cities have targeted areas around them. It's just not the city. And I will tell you if it's just the city. And what they're doing, they're targeting trucking. I'm going to call the word hub, where a lot of trucks go through towns. They're targeting those towns. Plus they're targeting military bases. Like in Puerto Rico, there's a big military presence, and they're going to just burn to the ground Puerto Rico. Portland and Salem are new on the list. Their military presence is very big. Another military base they're targeting is Fort Campbell, which is the third largest military base in our country. They're targeting Fort Benning. They're targeting Colorado Springs, Colorado. They're saying that the food is out in the shelves, but it's just not showing up as fast. But after this podcast, after I tell you what I've been going through, it's made me a big believer in what I'm doing, because you would not believe what they're doing with me, working with me, how we're doing these escape routes. I'll just give you an example. Everybody's got Google Maps, and one thing, a lot of people have a virus on their Google Map, but fortunately this year, I got a program that is just phenomenal, and every day it goes through and cleans off my computer, and I don't have a virus on my Google Maps. So that's what's saving me, because I Google Map all these escape routes. And what happens is, when I have my computer attached to like a 40-inch TV, and I don't have the best eyesight. I'm not saying I have 20/20, far from it. So when I'm doing these Google Maps and they're taking me through the escape routes, I have this Google Map all the way up to it's very little. It's like maybe 2,000 feet. When I'm going through these escape routes with them, I've got the Google Map blown up really big so I can read the streets. Because I have to write, I'm writing down, when they're going through this escape route with me, I'm writing down all these streets and spelling them. So I have to blow it up pretty big. I don't see the big picture where they're taking me. And there's this one escape route from Chicago, and Chicago is just a nightmare for escape routes. And I'll tell you why a little bit. So they tried to get through, and Chicago goes all the way to Wisconsin, the grid. We went from Crystal Lake around, it's in Chicago, had no idea about Crystal Lake. Now I'm looking at this street, I think it was Briarwood and North, right there at this Crystal Lake. Now I can only see the streets, very close. And they're telling me, turn left here, turn right here, go straight here. And you know what? They got me all the way to Janesville, Wisconsin, without going back. I never could have done that. And now we're talking small roads. We're not talking major highways. I don't remember how far Janesville, Wisconsin is from Crystal Lake in Chicago. It's pretty far. It's about maybe 90 miles. We went through mile to mile. We did not, or maybe even less really. And I'm not seeing the big picture, the Google map. I'm in there, zoomed in on these streets with the names so I can write them down. I'm writing down step by step. left here, left on this road, right on this road, cross under this highway, at this junction, make a right. I'm not seeing the big map to get to Janesville, Wisconsin, but they are. And this is how SMEW was working by himself with me. And then to speed it up, MOSH came in on board. And I'll stop here and give you a little background about SMEW. He came on board with me last July, and he's the one that was giving me all the information about the pandemic, the economic crash. He was working with Creator with me, and he came on board again in last July. And in another podcast, I'll tell you about SMEW if it's okay with him. And now back to the podcast. And SMEW just told me that he's a frequency expert too. He reminded me that. I appreciate you, SMEW. I love you. And working through me. Now back to the podcast. Now what they do is this. I asked them how they do it. Now SMEW is with me at my computer, seeing what I'm doing. And MOSH is at the area where the actual area, and he's above it. And they told me they can communicate telepathically, like a blink of an eye. They're communicating back and forth where I am and where he is, and he's plotting out the escape routes. And you wouldn't believe this one escape route from Albany, New York. And I asked him, I said, how can you tell which cities are safe and which are hot? I mean, all these cities, these little cities all around these areas, they're hot. And how does MOSH know? And MOSH says, Creator tells him. Creator knows. Creator knows which city is hot. And then Creator knows if you have a God soul, if you're incarnated on earth, if you're part of a spark of God, God knows every thought in your head. And God's like a supercomputer. God remembers. And these people like the Rothschilds and the Jesuits, if they have a God soul, God knows what every plan is. He knows what they're thinking. So that's how God transfers the information to MOSH or SMEW and then to me. God is working with this. So when MOSH, I'm asking MOSH, is this hot? Is this safe? And MOSH is telling me. And the only reason MOSH knows is because of Creator. Because Creator knows where every blockade is, every highway, what the blockades are, where there are, every plan. He knows, God knows every plan that they're doing. And when MOSH took me from Albany, we went from Albany, and I'm at street level. I'm reading these streets because I don't have very good eyesight. I'm right down, zoomed in. I can't see. I'm in about like a 5-block area, or maybe 10, and they're taking me through all these little roads because you cannot get on the big highways. They're blockaded. That's why Chicago was impossible. Chicago has a lot of lakes, and only the big highways go over these rivers and lakes. And they can't the escape route can't be on these big roads. Okay, so getting back to Albany. So Albany is surrounded by this river, I think, and it was really hard to get out of Albany. I think there was only one way out of Albany on the small roads. And they took me on these small roads. And it was unbelievable because they took me on this, they finally got me on this toll road. Can't remember. I've done so many maps, right? I've done so many escape routes right now. My brain is kind of swirling. And then I asked MOSH, I said, isn't this going to be blockaded? Because he's taking me through these toll booths. And he says, no, the guards will be dead by then and you'll be able to pass through these toll booths. Creator knows everything. It's just unbelievable, mind-boggling what Creator knows. He knows every plan, every blockade, where it's going to be. I mean, MOSH knows, and he conveys that to MOSH. So MOSH knows every escape route, every blockade, every city that's hot and safe. Unbelievable. You have to witness it like I am you just become such a believer that how could I find my way to this area from Albany. Now I'm going to continue the podcast. They got me on this turnpike, or this toll road, all the way to Springfield, Massachusetts, from Albany. And then they told me everything on the west side of Massachusetts to 91, where I think Springfield is, I think that was the town, is hot, is a target city. All these little towns. They had to take me all the way to Springfield, Massachusetts for be a safe city. You couldn't stop in these other cities that are going to be targeted. You can't stop there. So they have to go, they know where all the safe cities are. And then they told me the people in Massachusetts, these towns will not be burned to the ground. They want to preserve that land so that only the people will be killed. And then he told me all the way up to Vermont, to like Middlebury, will be targeted. The whole 1/3 side of Vermont. It's unbelievable, the grid of Albany. So if you saw what they're doing with me and making no mistakes, I mean, I only see in like maybe a 10 block, I'm zoomed in that big to this area. I don't see the whole Google map of where to go. And these are all secondary, third roads that they're taking me down. And Nashville was a total nightmare for me because we had to go through the mountains, all these little roads. And some of these roads are so winding and there's a lot of dead ends. And it was tough. It was really hard to get through out of Nashville. So that's what's going on. If you saw what they're doing with me, how they're working with how MOSH is in the area, the targeted area, and SMEW is back here with me, watching the computer where I'm at, and they're talking, they're communicating back and forth. You know, I'm asking SMEW I'm asking them left here, right here, straight. And they're communicating back and forth, and SMEW is telling me where to go, and MOSH is on the other end, charting out the route along with Creator, because Creator knows where the blockades are. Creator knows where the hot cities are. So it's made a 100% believer of me, because I never could have gotten to Springfield, Massachusetts from Albany, New York on the side roads. Of course, once we're talking day 13, 14, and possibly 15, where they're telling me all the guards on these blockades will be dead. So, but you still might not be able to get on these big roads because they'll be still blockaded. So it's just been an amazing week. I am so tired. I've only gotten about 2 to 4 hours sleep a night. And now I'm transcribing the escape routes instead of just audio reporting them, because there's so many turns. There's like one escape route was 5 pages of roads. That's how big it was. And it's something else. I've done not all the cities yet. I'm still working on them. MOSH says that they will have a way to lock down these cities if the food doesn't work. They'll use other tactics like rioting, false flags, just some kind of excuse. And you know, if you listen to Deborah Tavares and them, they're talking about more and more lockdowns, more and more less. You know, they're inching towards this. It's just a matter of time before we're all locked down. But as of right now, October 28th is still their target date. And again, Creator knows their plans. And if the plans change, they'll tell me. Like, for instance, on New York, it was going to be day 19 when they detonated. But now it's day 18. So that changed, but they changed their plans. So he knows what the Rothschilds are thinking, what the Jesuits are thinking, everybody. I don't know how Creator keeps track of it. He's probably like a super mainframe. So now I'm going to go over these states. Cities are targeted in what areas. And when I name a city, usually is the area, but sometimes it's just the city. And it won't be in alphabetical order, so I apologize for that. The state of Alabama, it's Mobile and all the way to Pell City. I don't know the name of the highway to go into Birmingham from Georgia. That grid from Georgia is huge. It goes all the way to Pell City. And let me ask if Birmingham, I haven't asked lately. I don't think Birmingham's targeted yet. They could be. So the escape routes out of Pell and all that, they're not to Birmingham. Is Birmingham targeted? No, Birmingham is not targeted yet. These target cities keep getting added, you know. Like right now, today, he gave me a town in New Mexico, and that was free, you know. So Arizona is Phoenix, Flagstaff, and Yuma. And I already did the escape routes to Flagstaff and Yuma. And I think we did Phoenix too. We've done the escape routes to Buffalo, New York, and Albany, and New York City. We haven't done, and he just added Akron today. Canton and Akron are Ohio. Indiana, we've done escape routes from Gary and Bloomington and Indianapolis. These are the areas, you know. Gary is a part of the Chicago grid. And Bloomington, Indiana is going to be targeted all by itself just because of a grudge against one person who lives in Bloomington, Indiana. And you can listen to a podcast previously who that is and why. Tennessee is going to be hit really hard. Nashville got added. Jackson, Memphis, Clarksville is Fort Campbell. They're targeting that. And Clarksville was very difficult to get out of. They're surrounded. I think that might be the, you know, they all run together. The Cumberland River, maybe. It was very difficult to get around rivers of these towns because most of the time these big highways cross rivers, you know, and you got to find a road, a small secondary road that gets over a body of water. Okay, Puerto Rico, I've done that. Both islands burned to the ground, military presence. I've already done Hawaii. Vancouver, British Columbia, I've done that already. In Missouri, it's St. Louis County, Cape Girardeau, Missouri, Poplar Bluff, and Springfield. Illinois, it's the western part of Illinois across the river from St. Louis, just sort of like New York is with New Jersey. Illinois is Chicago, and they added yesterday or the day before we did escape routes from Springfield, Illinois. And he did an escape route from Springfield, Illinois. I remember this one, all the way to Louisiana, Missouri, from Springfield, Illinois. And then I think the other escape route, if I'm remembering correctly, was to Decatur from Springfield. That's how many kill cities are in this grid of Springfield. And I can't remember why Springfield was targeted. I think might be a little bit of a trucking route. And Texas, it's the Dallas-Fort Worth area. It's a huge grid all the way down to Waco. And I think we've already done some escape routes from Dallas-Fort Worth. And then the other city that's going to be under attack in Texas is Midland. Oklahoma, it's Oklahoma City area, almost all the way down, actually all the way down to Dallas-Fort Worth, or to the border. Kansas, it's Wichita and El Dorado. Wisconsin, we haven't done this grid, our escape routes yet, to Milwaukee. Michigan, it's Lansing, Grand Rapids, and Whitmore Lake. Iowa, it's Cedar Rapids and Iowa City. This is a new one, New Mexico, Santa Fe. He just added that today. Colorado is Colorado Springs and Pueblo. They're kind of connected. And in Colorado Springs and Pueblo, it's a big military presence, and they're going to they're not going to burn the city to the ground. They're just going to kill the people. And if those people survive, they'll be in a FEMA camp. They'll kind of be forced to go up to Denver. Denver is not going to be under attack, but they'll be under attack later. And Utah, it's going to be Ogden. Oregon, it's a big military presence. Portland, Salem, they're connected. The grid's connected together. Nevada, it's only Las Vegas. Massachusetts, I already went over that. It was a spillover from Albany all the way over to 91. Vermont, I talked about that a little bit a while ago, all the way up to Middlebury and all the way over to, it's about the third west side of Vermont. It's going to be a kill zone. Connecticut, it's still Sandy Hook just by itself. That's a revenge. New Jersey, it's the area around New York City and Atlantic City. Virginia, it's Richmond and Fredericksburg. South Carolina, it's Greenwood and Greensville and Spartanburg, which is spillover from Georgia. Georgia, all the state down to Macon, which is a little bit more than half. Mississippi, these are new. Pascagoula, Hattiesburg, South Haven, and Biloxi. That got added today too. And in Pennsylvania, it's the Harrisburg area. And what's interesting, I always like to say the word funny. Nothing's funny about this, but they're reminding me, I stopped the video, or I stopped the audio and added Pennsylvania. And they reminded me of that because I forgot Pennsylvania, and I also forgot Nebraska. They reminded me of that, and so now I'm going to do Nebraska. And I just went over Nebraska with them. There's only 4 cities or 4 towns that are going to be targeted. One is McCook. The other one is Hastings. Another one is, I don't know if I'll pronounce this right, Papillion. And the last one is Lexington, Nebraska. And the last one is Louisiana, Shreveport. These are humongous. I haven't begun all the escape routes. We're working on it. But the rule of thumb is this: the day if you are a target city, the first day they will shut off your electricity. They cannot pulse your house with the gigahertz, the smart meter frequency, unless your breakers are on. So if you want to live or survive, you have to turn the breakers off. And in fact, people in California, the majority of these fires are from smart meters. They're starting with the smart meters. I'm looking at the video of these areas that are burned out. These are smart meter. There's the signature of the smart meters. When your grid goes out, protect yourself by turning off your power, turning off the breakers. Then it can't burn your house down. That's where I'm getting goosebumps all over saying this. They're warning you, turn off your breakers, shut them off, and opt out of those smart meters. People are emailing me or texting me that they are out of there. They don't have a smart meter. That's how they're going to kill the majority of the people. If they survive the smart meter by being smart, they're going to kill them through the towers. But the towers are just overkill. And in fact, where they want to kill the people, they're not going to run the 60 gigahertz, which totally destroys the land. So again, turn your breakers off. If you have a power outage in California or up in Oregon or Washington, if they're attacking up in Washington, you're going through your own target cities by these fires. They're burning out California with fires. But I'd like to talk about, this is changing the subject. I'd like to talk about, I've been able to ask a lot of questions of SMEW and MOSH and Creator. And I've always been curious about these demons and everything. And I always thought, Creator was both polar, was both, balanced, dark and light. But no, our universe, our Creator is pure love, pure love. The entities that are on Earth right now, these demons, they come from a polar universe, another totally separate universe next to our universe. And I know this is going to be hard to digest. And they've gotten through these portals. And that's how they've gotten into our universe. And they're more low vibration. They feel good when people are suffering. Like, that's why they sacrifice people to these demons. It's because it makes the demons feel good. So those are the demons that have taken control of Earth. It's just overrun it. Now, when Notre Dame burned, either last year or this year, I don't know when it did, they were planning on opening up another portal. And I don't know who did it, the Alliance, I don't know. But they burned it down because they closed that portal up. So they couldn't open it up and let more of them in. And Michael the Archangel is ahead of the legion of angels that are called the warrior angels. And Michael the Archangel and those angels are rounding up these, I want to call them dark forces. And I don't remember what they said they'll do with them. They'll probably take them back. The portals aren't closed yet, but they're being guarded so more can't get through. And it's a spiritual war going on. There's no nothing like in the movies like killing and all. It's just rounding these up and forcing them to contain them. And what else do I have to say? It's just really interesting. I even asked SMEW and MOSH, I go, do you guys sleep? And they said, no, they don't have to sleep. And they can see through. They can see through my eyes what I'm looking at. They can hear my every thought. I wouldn't even have to talk out loud to them. I just could talk to myself inside my head, but they put thoughts in my head, then I confirm them. So I don't channel them. I guess you could call me intuitive, where I listen and they give me thoughts and then I confirm it. So if you would have seen how they got me through Albany all the way to Springfield, or getting me out of Nashville on these little roads. And again, I've got the Google map blown up where it's only 2,000 feet, the measurement, that's how close in I am. I have to read these little roads, and I don't have really good eyesight. So there is no way I could ever have gotten from Crystal Lake to Janesville, Wisconsin on little side roads. No big highways, okay? No big highways. If you saw, when you hear all the escape routes, and they're going to be coming out, I don't know when they wanted me to start releasing them. But again, I just wanted to give people a heads up that I'm okay, that I've been working almost day and night doing these escape routes with them. Oh my gosh, we're hoping that the thought is hope that this can be stopped, that the military will get involved and knock out these towers, that people can get warned about their smart meters, to turn the smart meter off if your grid goes down. We can stop this, but I think the military is going to have to get involved. The electric companies could get involved. They've got such control of our country remotely. They don't even have to be here. They've got their minions working for them, the black helicopters. I really do think that a lot of the people working for them don't realize the end game, because if they did, they wouldn't be doing this. So if information gets out to them, what this end product is, like the guards, they're probably going to have, and this is just me, they'll probably have the National Guard, the police, I don't think the United Nations will be involved with these blockades. And when I edit this audio, I always stop and add things or take things out. And MOSH and SMEW just told me, no, United Nations will not be involved in the blockades. Back to the podcast. But the Army might be, the National Guard, or the police. If these people were educated, they wouldn't comply with what the Jesuits or the cabal is doing. And this is my last thing. They just reminded me. I asked them, there was reporting some people were hearing explosions in Canada. So I asked MOSH and SMEW about that and what China is doing. And this started about 10 years ago. They're doing an underground rail system all the way from China to around Buffalo, New York. Now, they've got about another 5 years before it's completed. And what they do is, it's about 1.5 miles down. They're using nuclear technology, and it's similar to what they do when they do underground storage for oil. They do underground nuclear explosions, which scour out the area and leave the rock kind of like seal it. It seals it. So what China has to do then is they only have to remove some debris. It's really an informative video to watch. Which educated me about it was Dmitry Kalizov in the one about New York, the 9/11. It's called The Third Truth. Just Google or just search for Dmitry Kalizov. I think it's Kalezof, something like that, or V. Dmitry Kalizov. You'll find him on YouTube. He's got a 3-hour explanation of what happened in 9/11, the truth. And they used underground nuclear explosions to scour out to make underground oil where they can store it. So that's what China is doing. It's 1.5 miles down underground. And right now they're in the Yukon. They're underground in the Yukon. And the explosions can be heard all the way down to Vancouver. That's what's going on if you hear explosions. It's 1.5 miles underground. And they're scouring out, making a tunnel big enough for a 2-way rail. It's going to be like one of those real fast rail systems from China that can go, like you can travel from China to Buffalo in like 1 day. But the railway will have their own oxygen system, because when they scour this out, it's radioactive, So they're headed for Buffalo. That's where they're gonna the target is, in Buffalo, New York. And I really didn't ask him. And this is my another last thought. I asked him why Kansas City wasn't being targeted, and the Chinese, this is their plans. The Chinese are going to use, they're really big into rail. And the reason Kansas City is not being targeted because Kansas City is a big rail center. They're going to leave the railway intact because that's how their transportation is going to be in the United States. They're going to be using rail systems. So I pretty much covered things. I'm going to, oh my gosh, this is like 30 minutes already, rattling on. So I just wanted to give you a heads up. I'm okay. I'm going to be doing more escape routes. I don't know. I got to find out when they wanted me to start releasing them. They will do the lockdowns. It's inevitable what they're doing. They're going to either do it through false flags, through bioweapons, through the food, civil war, these George Soros paying people to riot. They could have any kind of tactic. They got to create some kind of a reason to lock us down, okay? But that final lockdown, when we're locked in our houses, that's when they'll start getting you with the smart meter, the 35 gigahertz frequency. So I will be podcasting again shortly. I'm doing escape routes right now. If you live in these areas, you might want to have a place to go if you want to escape. If there is going to be a lockdown, if you suspect there is going to be a lockdown and you live in these targeted areas, it's your choice whether you want to stay or whether you want to leave. So again, as soon as they want me to start releasing these escape routes, I will. And in the meantime, be aware, prepare, and be safe. And until next time, good night and God bless.